acting. The main takeaways from today's session are going to be the meaning of humor, history of humor, the factors on which humor depends, the benefits of humor, the strategies to incorporate humor in the classroom, and lastly, the initiative of the NCERT, the National Council of Educational Research and Training, and its efforts along with the CBSE to development for the series of comic books. Let us first try to understand what is humor. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, humor is defined as the quality of being comic or amusing. The term humor is actually derived from the Latin word humere or humor, meaning moisture or fluid. Our ancestors believed that our body was made up of 4 bodily fluids, namely blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, which were thought to control human emotions and also made an important part in determining our temperament. Let us now move to the history of humor. Humor actually has been part of our behavioral repertoire of modern human sapiens for thousands of years. Ancient Greek texts contain descriptions of joke books and jesters who were employed in the courts of kings and queens in medieval Europe. Their primary occupation was to keep the royals and their guests entertained. One of the earliest historical figures to be associated with humor is the Greek philosopher Democritus. Democritus, around 460 BCE, is also known as the laughing philosopher for his emphasis on cheerfulness. In the Elizabethan times of the 16th century, there was quite a fad for writing plays. Although the time was a very serious one with a lot of misery, with a lot of increasing population, and the outbreak of a number of diseases like tuberculosis, smallpox, and plague, it did not stop the people of this era from having a laugh once in a while. Many of the Elizabethan era plays were comedies, and the characters were characterized by their personality traits, which were surely laugh-provoking. I am sure you must have read some of the comedies of William Shakespeare. Some of the most prominent ones, which are sure going to make you laugh, are The Tempest, The Twelfth Night, The Merchant of Venice, The Comedy of Errors, As You Like It, A Midsummer's Night Dream, and the list is absolutely endless. In India, in ancient Sanskrit drama, sage Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra defined humor or hasyam as one of the 9 navarasas or the emotional responses which could be aroused in the audience. Indian humor can also be traced to the time of the great Mughal emperor Akbar and his jester Birbal. I am sure you must have read many of the Akbar Birbal stories, and these stories which have been compiled are a clear eloquence of Akbar's wit, humor, and his exchanges with King Akbar. Around the same times, probably around the 16th century, we also have another witty person, Tenali Rama, who lived in the court of Krishna Deva Raya in the Vijayanagar Empire. Both of these jesters played a very important role, and I am sure today also we feel a lot of humor, a lot of satisfaction in dealing the books which have narrations of the funny incidents and episodes between the king and their jesters. Now, let us try to understand, is there any kind of similarity or any kind of difference between humor and laughter? Humor actually is the underlying cognitive process that frequently, but not necessarily, leads to laughter. So actually what may seem humorous to one person may not necessarily seem humorous to another person. Laughter, on the other hand, is a seizure-like activity that can be experienced through humorous cognitive stimulus, which could be either somebody tickling you, it could be listening to a funny incident, or a reading a funny book, or something like that. Thus, one can laugh without a humorous stimulus, and similarly, one can experience humor without laughter. So, actually, whether something is funny or not depends on what? It actually depends on the verbal phrasing in combination with a full appreciation of the prevailing social dynamics. Now, let us read through some of these witty humors. Behind every successful man, there is a woman, and behind every unsuccessful man, there are two. In the words of Albert Einstein, who has tried to define relativity, when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, you think it's only a minute. But when you sit on a hot stove for a minute, you think it's 2 hours. That's relativity in the definition of Albert Einstein. Another quote, I didn't attend the funeral, but I sent a nice letter saying I approved of it. It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you are a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. Just ponder over these quotes and tell me, did you laugh out loudly while reading them? Surely not, but you must have understood the wit, the humor that is associated, the pun, the sarcasm that is associated in each of these quotes. Next, let us clearly understand what kind of a teacher are you? Do you always have a stern face in the class? Or do you allow students to exchange their sorrows, express their views and opinions? And most importantly, do you have a sense of humor? Every teacher, I believe, can energize his or her classroom by blending humor into the school day, by threading moments of humor, by finding some funny incident, some funny episodes within the pages of the textbook, within the pages of the curriculum, movies, jokes, or almost everyday situations of life. It is important to remember that teachers are not comedians, but they can certainly lighten up the mood in the classroom and encourage active participation of students by ensuring that learning is not confined merely to memorizing, but is actually understood, analyzed, and applied in life as and when needed. Happiness is primarily a state of mind, a state of well-being. It is something which has to be searched, not in the exterior world, dear friends, but it has to be searched within ourselves. As teachers, our happiness may lie in a sense of contentment or self-worth or a sense of satisfaction that today's class was meaningful, it was effective and enjoyable too. Teachers' well-being in this respect is very important. For we all know that as teachers, our job sometimes can be very demanding. It is sometimes very stressful, especially during the pandemic situation. We teachers are facing a plethora of difficult situations, both at school and in the home front, which somewhere or the other affects our well-being. When teachers are happy or experience low well-being, they are not able to perform to their fullest potential. Sometimes, I'm sure you must have experienced this, that you are unwell, you are not physically fit, but you have to take a class. Then what happens? You walk into the class, you read out something from the book, you explain a few points, and you leave the class. Children too just listen to what you have said, and they get really bored. Nobody enjoyed the period. So, isn't it important that a teacher should be happy? A teacher's well-being is very important. And remember, Only if a teacher is happy, then only he or she can make their students happy. And then only happy teachers will be able to create a happy classroom. In this respect, I would like to present before you a model which is known as the PERMA model of well-being, a model of happiness, if you may call it, developed by American psychologist Martin Seligman. Researching on the science of happiness, the PERMA model provides strategies that help to uplift our well-being, or in fact, improve our happiness. Now, in the PERMA model, P stands for positive emotions. Positive emotions sometimes is even more important than mere happiness. Positive emotions may include hope, interest, joy, compassion, interest, and gratitude. Positive emotions, in fact, can undo the harmful effects of negative emotions and may allow us to come back with greater force and greater energy. E in the PERMA model stands for engagement, which uplifts our curiosity and builds on our strength. People feel most happy when they are participating in activities which they really love, when you really lose a track of time when you are doing these kind of activities. For example, some people may find joy, may find happiness in engaging themselves in reading a book. Some may be happy while listening to a song. Some may feel happy in doing gardening, whereas some of our teachers may feel happy when we are amongst our students, when we are actually interacting with our children and allowing humor to be an integral part of our classroom. R in the PERMA model stands for relationship. We need to build and nurture positive relationships around you. The social environment has been found to play a very critical role in preventing cognitive decline, and strong social networks contribute to our physical and mental health. The importance of relationship has been understood by each and every one of us, especially during the lockdown period, when we were not allowed to meet our friends, our relatives, and we were confined within the four walls of our home. Research has demonstrated actually that sharing good news or celebrating success fosters strong bonds and better relationships. M in the PERMA model stands for meaning, the need to have a sense of value, a sense of worth. Having a purpose in life actually helps individuals to focus on what is really meaningful, what is really important in the face of the plethora of difficulties with which you are challenged day in and day out. Having meaning or having a purpose in life may mean different things for different people. Somebody may find their meaning through or by engaging themselves in a political cause. Some others may involve themselves in some kind of charity work. Some others may find the meaning of life in using their passions or devoting their times to use their passions and spend quality time with the people you care about. A in the PERMA model stands for achievement, accomplishment, mastery, or competence. A sense of accomplishment, actually a sense of achievement, is a result of working towards and reaching your goals, mastering your endeavor. So no goal is big or small. These are your goals, your individualistic, unique goals in which you need to take pride in. When goals are achieved, celebrate them with fervor, with enthusiasm, and be ready to take up the future challenge. The best way to build your accomplishment or to achieve something is to set SMART goals, goals which are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, let me draw your attention to understanding which are the factors on which humor depends. Humor comes in many flavors. It is actually the personal taste of a person that determines his likes or dislikes. Let us look at some of the varieties of humor. Some enjoy physical humor, which is primarily associated with when you laugh like anything, when you see people falling or tripping. A perfect example of this is the era of the silent comedy of Charlie Chaplin. I'm sure you must have watched and must have enjoyed these wonderful movies of the silent era, which made you engage in physical humor. Some people have a taste for slapstick humor, which is a major genre of old comedy movies associated with characters crying out loudly or laughing even louder. A perfect example of this would be the sitcom we have all enjoyed, and that is Mr. Bean. Some may also have understanding of a farcical humor. Now, what do we understand by farcical humor? Closely associated with slapstick humor is this farcical humor, which may be experienced in the form of a more intelligently written act blended with physical comedy. Black humor is another category, which generally encompasses subjects associated with human sexuality, violence, racism, religion, and death. And another important category is the deadpan humor, a popular kind in which deadpan humor is another popular kind in which comedians deliberately display no emotions, and they deliver the jokes with a sort of neutrality in their manners, which is probably sarcastic and hilarious too. So choose your own humor, whatever humor you find interesting, or in whatever humor gives you the best satisfaction. Try and engage yourselves in these and make your life a little less stressful. The next important factor which determines humor is geographical location and culture. Research has shown that cultural influences play a very important role in determining humor. Popular literature has shown that generally the Westerners have associated humor with positivity, and they have seen humor as a natural amusement. In the late 19th century, the Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud regarded humor as a defense mechanism against obstacles. Psychologists in the 20th century began to talk about the positive effects of humor. However, if we shift our location, maybe from the West, if we move to the East, the Easterners' attitudes towards humor is not all that positive. According to research, Chinese do not see humor as a desirable personality trait. In fact, East Asians, including majority of the Chinese, the Taiwanese, and the Hong Kong people, are found to report lower cases of self-rated humor as compared to the Westerners. Another factor which determines our humor is maturity. It has been suggested that there is an inverse U relationship between cognitive demands and human appreciation. It is generally believed that appreciation of humor increases with age, but at some point, roughly when you are around 60 years of age, the enjoyment of humor starts to decline. But it is a clear proven fact that typically jokes with an intermediate level of difficulty are considered to be the funniest, whereas the jokes that are too easy or too difficult to understand do not create so much of humor. And last, context. The context or the situation plays a very important role in determining humor. We have often come across this proverb, laughter is the best medicine. Children are actually experts at laughter. They understand the power of laughter. They laugh freely, joyfully, and they are capable of seeing and identifying humor in a variety of contexts. Actually, if we analyze this proverb closely, you will find that certainly there is a scientific truth behind the statement that laughter is the best medicine. Every time you laugh, what happens is that your diaphragm gets inflated, and this allows oxygen-rich air to enter into your lungs. So, laughter certainly can be considered as the best medicine. Looking at more physical benefits of humor, we can understand that when we laugh at hilarious events, your cardiac health improves. It increases the heart rate and also lowers the blood pressure. Research shows that humor also can help to improve our sleep. It can reduce our physical pain and it improves the immunity system. Humor also is physically proved, or in fact clinically proved, to decrease the digestive difficulties and release the physical tension in the muscles. Along with the physical benefits of humor, I would like to also draw your attention to some of the psychological benefits which come from humor. Humor can actually elevate the stress, the anxiety which you feel when you are surrounded by a number of difficult and challenging situations. But when teachers allow students to interact, allow them to express their joys and their sorrows, it increases the enthusiasm amongst the students and builds up their confidence. They seem happy and at ease, and they are able to pay better attention in the classroom. Humor improves the relationship with family and friends. The contagious nature of humor builds up a sense of community by lowering defenses and bringing individuals together, promoting positive communication between them. I'm sure you have seen in many situations when one student starts laughing, the others automatically starts laughing. It seems like it is a line. It is sometimes said that humor is certainly contagious. You may be surprised to know that humor actually boosts the memory and it increases the creativity of the person. It reduces the stress, reduces the negative talk. Actually, when somebody is engaged in something humorous, they are not able to concentrate on anything else. And they try to overcome their fears, overcome their worries by laughing out. This reduces the negative talk. It reduces the stress, builds up the self-esteem, the confidence, and automatically leads to fewer discipline problems within the class. Let us now look at some of the important tools, the strategies which can be adopted by the teachers within the classroom. First, we can introduce some common icebreakers in the class. We can actually start the class with some activity or game to capture the attention of the students. Damsharad is a very popular kind of a game which can be used by teachers in the class when they're introducing a topic. Through this Damsharad game, teachers, through actions, without saying anything, can try to explain or try to point out to the students which topic or which concept they are going to teach. Another important tool can be used by the teachers, that is to maintain a humor log and encourage students that they may come up and they may write a joke in this logbook. This simple task encourages writing, even for the most reluctant writer, as every student is eager to add a page to the humor log. And on days when there are no stories to tell, when there are no jokes to share, at that time, the teacher can pick out the humor log from the bookshelf and maybe read out the various jokes which have been written by the students themselves. Students and teachers may also be encouraged to share a joke in the class to lighten up the mood and set the stage for experiential learning. Jokes actually may be related to the subject you are teaching. For example, if we take the case of English subject, an English teacher could use this joke An old teacher asked a student, "If I say I am beautiful, which tense is that?" The student replied, "It is obviously past." So the teacher has made it clear that today she is going to teach in the class past tense. Now let us look at this maths joke here. I'm sure Matthew sir, along with other maths teachers, may try to understand or try to point out that maths is the only place where people buy 64 watermelons, and no wonder, and no one is asking Matthew sir, why you have bought these 64 watermelons? What are you going to do with such a large number of watermelons? Similarly, the science teacher could start her class with this joke: "Don't drink water while studying, because chemistry says that concentration decreases on adding water." So next time, a science teacher, maths teacher, when you enter the class, I'm sure you can use these jokes to lighten up the atmosphere within your classrooms. Riddle is an effective strategy that can be used in the classroom. Riddles actually promote non-conventional thinking, as they encourage multiple acceptable responses. Students are encouraged to find answers for their jokes. For example, which is the longest word in English? Smiles, because actually there's a mile between the beginning S and the ending S. I don't have so much of time, so I will not go into all the riddles which have been put here. What has 13 hearts but no other organs? What is it? It is nothing but a deck of cards which has 13 hearts but no other organs. How many squares can you see in this picture? If you count, and if you are a good person at solving riddles, you will actually find some 40 squares which are there in this riddle. Another appropriate way to incorporate humor in the classroom is to encourage students to read aloud funny poetry and literature. If you giggle as you turn the pages of the book as a teacher, I'm sure students too will be attracted towards you. They will take some interest in what you are reading or what you are trying to teach the class. Tongue twisters are a great way for a teacher to not only introduce fun in the class, but also provide a means of entertainment. I'm sure you all have said this tongue twister thousands of times. She sells seashells on the seashore, but the shells she sells aren't seashells at all. So actually, tongue twisters challenge our capacity to enunciate the individual sounds in each word, so we don't trip up. They force us to pay careful attention to the precise sounds in each word. And mastering these individual sounds is a critical skill for reading success. With the introduction of the National Education Policy 2020 and the shift to competency-based education and experiential learning, a new initiative has been undertaken, and that is to promote joyful learning. And in this respect, I need to point out that a number of graphic novels and comic books have been developed by the NCERT. Now, these series of comic books which have been developed primarily stress on the need to shift from rote learning and promote 21st century skills among the students, like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and digital literacy, in line with the National Education Policy of 2020. On 21st of March, Mr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank launched about 120 graphic novels and 100 plus comic books were released. The important aspect of these books is that they have been developed for classes 3 to 12 for 16 subjects. Nearly 50 different CBSE schools from 13 different states have produced nearly 120 graphic novels. Right from the illustration to the storyline, from the script writing to technical details, everything is done in-house by the teachers and the students. While developing suggestions for improvement, these improvement tactics were taken from the students of the targeted grade. The icing on the cake is these graphic novels have been converted into audiovisual copies for a better impact in the lives of the students. Let me draw your attention to the features of the CBSE comic books. The comic books are divided into smaller topics. I think I'm running out of time. If the meeting gets disconnected, you are requested to rejoin again through the same link. Drawing your attention to the features of the CBSE comic books, these comic books are divided into smaller topics. Each comic book consists of concise chapters followed by worksheets with details of learning objectives and the learning outcomes. The comic books are supported by application-based examples to understand the concept and reduce the learning gaps. A storyline is created by each comic and students are familiarized with the characters of the book. Comic books, in the words of the CBSE, have ushered in transformation of schooling to personalized learning, as 21st century education focuses more on information, expertise, attitudes, values, and transformative competencies that create holistic learners. Comic books have taken even a lot of care to issue or to address the issues of gender sensitivity, women empowerment, and value education, amongst other life skills. In these books, many social barriers have been broken, and efforts have been made to show that gender roles can be switched depending on the circumstances. Thus, mothers have been depicted as engineers and fathers have been shown as a homemaker. In accordance with the Academic Circular number 44, dated